Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to game week 17, not 16, game week 17. And all eyes on a certain Norwegian, Erling Haaland. Is he going to make it or not? And what do we do? So we're going to chat a bit about that. Welcome back, Rich. How are you? And what colour was your arrow in game week 16?
I'm well, thanks for the drink yesterday, buddy. And my arrow was a very big red one in game week 16. It feels like it's been a while since we spoke, but actually, I think we did maybe there's been 2 game weeks since we last did a pod. I can't quite recall, but anyway.
I think that's why I got a bit confused then on which game week it was.
Yeah, I mean, I know last week was dreadful, mainly because of not owning Son finally caught up with me. I had a weekend away in last weekend, and so had sort of minimal content consumption going into the game week deadline. But we had all this goalkeeper nonsense with Areola and the broken wrist or whatever. And would he play? Would he not play? Etc. So I had to buy a goalkeeper, like many people, and made the sensible decision to defer the transfer in of Son, and got Robert Sanchez of Chelsea, and he immediately got injured. So that didn't go well. But of course, the planned transfer, the week to always get Son in, was last week, and I decided to kick that transfer down the road, have 2 free transfers for this week, and not owning him on Sunday evening was absolutely agonizing. And I think I went on tilt for a couple of days, withdrew from all forms of social media till about Wednesday morning.
Withdrew from society.
It was just one of those moments where I just had enough of it. And and I seeing millions of people tweeting their 60-point scores because of Son and Salah. So it wasn't good, but I've bounced back and I've already raised my transfers this week, so I will reveal them on the show.
Excited for that. Welcome back to the man, the myth, the legend, Big Man Bakar. Great to have you with us. Adam is away this week. He's got a new job, so he's kind of struggling for time at the moment. But thank you so much for joining us, Bakar. How are you? And what colour was your arrow in Gaming 16?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Fergie. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. It was a decent green arrow for me. I ended up on 63 points. I'm going through a phase in FPL in the moment where things are working for me. I wildcarded in game week 10, and since then I have registered 9 back-to-back green arrows. So I'm very happy, and I'm feeling very lucky to be in this position. I've had my fair share of luck on the way, and hopefully, I'm looking forward to this stretch of games that we're going to have in a very congested period of time, because I think there are big decisions to be made this week with Erling Haaland, and they may influence how the season's going to go.
Yeah, I agree. It seems quite a pivotal week, I think. We'll talk on Haaland next, but yeah, it could be quite a pivotal week. Lots of chat in the lots in the chat about massive hits. Gravy Dave said I might just minus 12, and Bryn Roberts is a minus 8 on this week, guys. So some people are planning some fancy stuff, but I wonder if Rich will jump on the hit train this week. It's going to be interesting.
Rich, I was reading your team reveal last week, and I didn't know that you were going to make the goalkeeper transfer. And in your team reveal article, you mentioned that you'll be getting Son and Jimenez. And once Jimenez scored, I immediately thought of you, because Jimenez, no one had him. So I was like, oh,
no,
Rich is going to get him.
My mind,
to do it. When I saw your team, no Son, no Jimenez, that really wasn't great.
It was quite a big swing away from that. I think that's why I sort of felt so bad about obviously I knew I was taking a chance not having Son on the wild card. That was the one regret, and I was getting away with it because he blanked 4 out of 5. I knew it would catch up with me eventually. But yeah, to have got that Jimenez is still a good move and good transfer, and some of the content's now caught up with that now, and he's being called out on things. But yeah, Thanks,
I mean,
buddy.
Son was an injury out as well, so that's what I assumed. That's
Yeah.
that's why I assumed
Yeah.
you wouldn't have gone ahead with the transfer because he was
Yeah.
an injury out before the weekend as well.
It was.
I mean,
these pesky injury doubts really are,
Yeah.
you know, almost like, well, they're daily now. There seems to be a drama every week now, a jeopardy moment that we have to decide whether to act on it or ignore it. And every week is something else.
Just on that, Rich, you asked me this yesterday, and I think you asked me yesterday, or someone asked me yesterday. It was a really interesting point. I think we are seeing a few more injuries, but do you think that there's just a lot more social media coverage and panic around injuries now, or do we genuinely think there are significantly more injuries? It just seems to be absolutely constant and frantic and panic all the time. Do you think it's coverage or not?
I think the sort of FPL community does. Some people try and blow it up to be more than it is to create that fun, I suppose, and jeopardy.
That emoji which goes like that.
Well, that's right. You know, and the level of communication, the amount of chatter that is out there between, let's say, engaged managers, you know, going backward and forth, saying, you know, sharing that information. Literally, the volume of big data around there has obviously increased. But managers aren't helping, are they? You know, there's more and more managers are now actually lying in press conferences, you know, to say that there's something wrong with their player or could be something wrong with their player with no intention of revealing what's really, you know. So you know, the other week it was Watkins, wasn't it? Watkins didn't play on the Thursday night, and he had a knock, and then he was fine, and he scored 11 points or whatever on the Sunday after a bunch of people sold him. So that could happen again with Haaland, couldn't it, this week? So every week it's a key player. Last week it was Son. Week before that it was Watkins. This week it's Haaland. What, are we going to make something up about Salah next week? You know, I mean, this is what happens every week, and it's exhausting. You can't switch off. You can't go and have a night out. You can't go and do something else. It's just ridiculous.
I bet you now, Rich. I don't think the Salah's in the squad this evening for the match. Right? You know, he's obviously been rested. I bet you there are people already going, Salah's not in the squad. He must be injured. He is some replacement. It's like, piss off. Just leave us be. Yeah. So, apologies, Bakar.
I mean, coming to this this thing with managers and, you know, the fact that they're lying. I just don't know why Eddie Howe in particular bothers to even attend this press conferences, because he's the one who's a constant liar. I mean, he's been the most habitual liar that, you know, I've literally ever seen in the history of the Premier League when it comes to managers. The guy is literally lying every week. I remember this season I bought Botman in, and turned out he was out for, you know, 2 or 3 months, and at that point he said, oh, he was progressing well, he should be fit for this weekend. Well, that weekend hasn't come. I mean, it's always been over 2 months. I'm still waiting, right? Some people still own him. I mean, it's
something is still available at 4.6 million as well, which is bizarre.
And you know, this is actually pertinent this week because there are flags hanging over Gordon, who's very highly owned in the community, and I don't trust a word of what Eddie Howe is going to say. I mean, I am really not optimistic about, you know, the authenticity of whatever he's going to say tomorrow. And unless we sort of get anything from the training ground or any pictures, it's very hard to decide what to do with Gordon, because, you know, he hasn't blanked in a home game this season. The fixtures against Fulham. But do you really want to believe what Eddie Howe is going to say?
You just got to play him, haven't you? Did he?
Well, I've got to bench someone, and at the moment it will be Gordon based on the the jeopardy.
Okay. Yeah. I got 63 this week. Made the move from Bemo to Palmer, which, you know, it didn't work out, but I'm really happy to hold him. He's been kind of hurting me most weeks. I know he's been on benches a lot, but I think he looks dangerous. They've got some fantastic fixtures upcoming as well. I know I know he's one game off a ban now as well, but home to Sheffield United, some really good fixtures. So I'm happy to hold him. And I did cash to Porro. So I've been saving my second transfer, and I wasn't sure whether to do it or not. But I just kind of bit the bullet and did. I wanted to get him in. Obviously returned with the assist. It was a shame about the clean sheet bust late on, but he's the kind of player who, over the years, Alonso, Trent, these kind of players, these fullbacks, when they're on form, Chilwell, when you don't own them and you're watching them, you just think, oh my goodness, how haven't they got 2 or 3 attacking returns. That's how I felt for the last 2 weeks with Porro. He just looks, and being a Spurs fan as well, it's almost doubly frustrating because I want him to do well for Spurs, but I don't want him to do well for FPL. So I've bitten the bullet now. So now I can cheer him on, and he is a frightening prospect. And
he looks really.
I really think for the rest of the season, he's going to be in most people's teams. The rest of the season, he's just an absolute beast.
I think you've got a couple of weeks where he can score big now, and while everybody's jumping on, and so these are the times to enjoy his points before he becomes, effectively like one of the premiums.
Yeah, I jumped on Porro as well this week for cash. And yeah, I mean, especially at a time when clean sheets are a rare commodity, I just like the appeal of Porro because, the guy can deliver both ends of the field. Actually, he has more attacking threat as compared to the defensive potential because Spurs they aren't exactly in the top 10 defenses even in the league. But, his potential has actually just gone a notch higher ever since Maddison's got injured because I think Postecoglou has given him the freedom to be the main creative outlet in the team. I was actually looking at some of the stats on the Hub's Opta tool, and since Maddison's injury, among defenders, Porro is first for chances created, shots, XGI, touches in the final third, penalty area touches. I mean, you name it. All the key stats, he's right up there. So, yeah, I mean, it would just help that if Spurs could keep a clean sheet because, in my opinion, whenever they keep a clean sheet, I think Porro's going to have a double-digit haul, and that's exactly what I'm waiting for as a owner.
He's also a kind of all-round, kind of non-FPL related as well. I saw a stat this week. I think he's got the 3rd or 4th highest amount of tackles in the Premier League this season as well, which I was surprised at, but it just adds to him, in terms of his overall play. So, yeah.
And he's just nailed, right? Which is very important
exactly.
At this stage. He's so good that he won't be rotated.
Absolutely. Welcome to everyone in the chat. FPL Jelly is in. John said, I asked a question in the chat. Haaland in or out? And John said he's staying. Sokan says, good evening. Hope you have a fit start at 11 by tomorrow's deadline. Good luck with that. Lots of people waiting for Haaland news. Ron Espeseth is in from San Francisco. Johnny A is in. Musica Pogo, keeping Haaland, selling Trippier. Yeah, there's a lot. We've got a flag graphic in a couple of slides time that we'll show. We've got like a full 15 of reasonably highly owned flags. Simon Fairweather's in. Ross McAlpine, Brim Roberts, Nelly Ellis, Boy K, Alan's a red, Nelly Ellis. I think I said that twice. Welcome, everyone. Absolutely great to have you with us. Moving on quickly, we do have a Christmas offer on at present at Fantasy Football Hub, and if you want to use the full power of the hub, as we all do, you can do so now for a full 30 days for absolutely free. This includes all the My Team features, included recommended transfers, predicted points through artificial intelligence, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members, and so much more. I won't have time to go through it all, but don't forget, it's all on the FFH app too. It's an absolute no-brainer if you want to do well at FPL. It's free for 30 days, which will include all the Christmas chaos. Give it a go. You won't be disappointed. Just imagine waking up Boxing Day morning with all the chaos all around you, and your app tells you which move is your most optimal move that week, and that is what Fantasy Football Hub does. We've got a couple of Violin moments to bring you. Let's just have a quick look at a few of these. First one, FPL Point Break says, here's a Violin moment for you. At FPL Crisis, took out Son as part of a -8. Oh, jeez. To enable him to bring in Haaland for game week 16. Net result was -28 points. And he's having a ripper of a season until now. After that, he's still in the top 10k. That is pretty
he's
good
28
going.
points swing, and he's still in the
He
top
must have
10K.
been
That's
absolutely
amazing.
flying. And a couple more. FPL XPL says, I hate FPL. He had Haaland captain. Saka vice captain. Obviously, when a lot had Salah and a few had Son, he had Saka vice. Double Newcastle defence. No Son. And not one return this week. That is tough going. And Cricket Nick adds on as well. Sold Son for Bruno.
Oh no! He got 0, didn't he? And he's suspended.
Vice captains Bruno over Salah.
my
First,
goodness.
That's terrible. So you
Yeah.
didn't get the Salah point.
I know a lot of people actually were in this position, and because they were wildcarding in Game Week 17, they were looking for a 1 week punt, and they sold Son because he was, he was kind of unfit. He was a doubt, so people moved him on for Bruno, and they vice captain Bruno as well
Oh no!
because of the
Oh, my
fixture.
goodness.
Oh my days!
Um,
Oh my days!
I
Very
got off li-
unfortunate.
I got off light.
I haven't finished on that one. So he sold some for Bruno. He vice captain Bruno for Salah. First sub Mubama. He played Trippier and Lascelles. And he sold Leno for Dubravka 2 game weeks ago. That is absolutely unbelievable. Well done, Cricket Nick. You are all honorary members of the Violin Club. Welcome, and don't forget to send your submissions every week for a chance to become a member of this very exclusive club. Okay, let's move on to FPL and the question on everyone's lips: Erling Haaland. What do we do? Bakar, really interested firstly in just your overall thoughts around the Norwegian forward.
I mean, this is the big question of the week. Firstly, I just think it makes sense to wait. I mean, unless you're in a position where you are absolutely certain on your transfers, like Rich was, that I assume he probably bought in Son. A lot of people are selling Haaland just for the sake of, gaining 0.1, 0.2 on the price changes. I don't agree with that. I think the value that we're going to get out of the extra information that we're going to gain tomorrow is greater than the swings that we're going to get. I honestly think that price changes at this point in time are going to be irrelevant for the next 10 game weeks at least, because if Haaland is out of the picture, let's say for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and Salah and Son are going to the Asia Cup and the African Cup of Nations after game week 21, then we're probably going to be in a situation where all of us are going to have one premium at the max at one point in time. So it doesn't really make any sense to me if you're moving just to catch the price changes. I mean, with the information we have, it looks unlikely that Haaland will be fit to play this weekend. And if we get a leak that he's not available, if he's not playing against Palace, for most teams, I believe the best option is to sell because benches are thin, and I don't think most teams are in a position where they can cover the absence of a 14 million player for 2 game weeks. I mean, if it was 1 game week, I would have understood, but for 2 game weeks, I think there are enough gains to be made by selling him for someone like a Watkins or Solanke. Now, there are 2 scenarios. Either you own Watkins already or you don't own Watkins already. If you own Watkins already, and if you have a Haaland and your bench is not good enough to cover, then, in my opinion, you should move him on to Solanke. Now, Bournemouth are actually first for XG in the previous 5 or 6 game weeks, and Solanke in that period is top for big chances, shots inside the box, and non-pen XG. So his numbers are right up there. And more importantly, they have a very good run of fixtures coming up where they're playing Luton at home, Forest away, and then Fulham at home in the next 3 weeks. The trickier scenario is if you have Darwin like myself, then do you buy Watkins right now or do you buy Solanke this week and then commit to a Watkins transfer next week? That's what is tricky. And in my opinion, that depends on what you think is going to be the duration of Haaland's absence. Let's say if you think that Haaland is going to be back by game week 19, or if we don't hear any concrete news regarding his availability, then I think it makes sense to go with Watkins because, in my opinion, I don't think it is worth getting Solanke just for 2 game weeks and then to just sell him in game week 19. But let's say if you think that that Haaland is out for a while, and let's say if we hear reports that he's out for till the new year, then I think going for Solanke over Watkins this week makes sense because then you can just have Solanke in for the next 3, and then you can make that transfer from Darwin or Archer to Watkins next week. This is what I think basically of the
yeah. I've been thinking about that exact scenario you said, Bakar. I kind of planned mine out a touch, and mine was to take a hit to get Salah. But if Haaland is back in 19, to take a hit to get him back. Even though I don't think away to Everton is the nicest fixture, so I'm potentially thinking about bringing him back ahead of 20 maybe. But yeah, really good good stuff there, Bakar. Lots of food for thought. What do you think, Rich?
Just one last thing to add. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
There might be a situation where, let's say, if we hear that Gordon is not training or Gordon is out for even a week, even let's say if he's pulled his hamstring or whatever. I mean, in that scenario, I think it makes a lot of sense for those who own Darwin to then possibly go from Haaland and Archer to Solanke and Watkins. Then you can get both the forwards that you want in for a negative hit, but that would cover Gordon's absence this week, as well as give you the flexibility to cover for Haaland's absence, let's say in game week 19, or Darwin's absence in game week 19, because I do see a scenario where Darwin doesn't play game week 19. I think you have to plan for it because game week 19 is a midweek. And in my scenario, at least the way I'm planning with my team, I am either planning to sell Darwin in game week 19 or to bench him in game week 19, because even though the fixture is an easy one at home to Burnley, it's in a congested period, and recent trend with Liverpool suggests that he will probably be rested.
Yeah, interesting stuff there, Bakar. What do you think, Rich?
All right, yeah, very well summarised, Bakar. I don't disagree with anything you said in terms of the different options and strategies. The only thing I said was, you've got to. I think a lot of content is made and talked about, imagining everybody has the perfect template team, and they don't. There is a template, and there is a template midfield in particular that is assumed everybody owns, which is Salah, Saka, Son, Palmer, and Gordon. Pretty much everyone's gravitated towards that in some shape or form. My team wasn't that way. I've been trying to play differently. I've been trying to play with a 4-3-3 since the game week 10 wildcard. It initially went well, but won't get into last week again. But I have an 8-man forward line, 8 playing forwards that I could play it all week. So I have a benching headache, but I do have a strong bench, and I set that up intentionally to do that. So that's good, because with all the injuries around, it doesn't force me into hits or anything like that. So didn't have to take any hits. Looked at exactly what Bakar described, the Watkins or Solanke scenario, and I didn't think it was worth getting Solanke this week, who has the better fixture, and then moving him on, or moving Darwin on for Watkins next week as a 2 transfer move. Because of the Haaland situation, I've used my 2 transfers already. I made the 2 transfers on Monday night, and I bought Watkins for Haaland and sold Mbuemo, who I hadn't sold the previous week because of the goalkeeper situation, and I moved him up to Son. So I did that on Monday because there was a price gain on both of them, and I was so certain that I wanted those 2 players, particularly for game week 18, that I just thought I'm getting 2 for 1 here. I'm getting 2 premium options for Haaland, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I slept much better afterwards. And now there's all this BS flying around, every 5 minutes about will he play? Here's a picture of his trainers. Here's a picture of him going on holiday. Here's some old training pictures from the summertime. His pictures with Gundogan in the background. You name it. We've had a picture of Haaland in every scenario that you can imagine, and it's going to carry on all the way up until the deadline tomorrow. So I'm glad that I don't have to be part of that. But yeah, it will be a sofa moment, won't it, if he does start against Palace and bangs a hat trick.
I'm really glad it's a Friday night deadline, because I would not want to be hanging about on Saturday morning like 10:30, just trying to sift through all the rubbish on fake leaks and all this stuff. So I'm kind of glad that's out of our hands.
Exactly. But I think, given the fact I've bought the 2 key players I need for game week 18 this week, my plan is to roll next week. I don't think you'll find many people rolling in game week 18. And then I've got 2 frees for when Haaland comes back, so I can get him out and get him in for free. So I'm not particularly worried about that. But I think that's because I've played with a deep bench and I haven't got as many injuries as other people. So, there we are.
Yeah, I would have made the same moves in your position, Rich, because I mean, you wanted Son, that's fine, but I mean, you're saving basically a transfer going for Watkins early. I mean, I assume you would have planned a transfer from either Isak or Darwin to Watkins in game week 18, but you basically brought that forward. And let's say if Gordon is benched this week, or let's say if Darwin is benched in game week 19, like I assume he would, then you have a bench to cover. So I think you've covered all bases.
I think a thing I'd add in terms of whether to sell him or not, though, is because there is an early deadline on the Friday, and because there is a very, very good alternative. Or, well, I think there's a couple actually really good captaincy alternatives in Salah. A kind of rampant Liverpool at home against a bedraggled Man United who've got no defence. And I also think actually kind of Saka home to Brighton is a pretty good fixture as well. I think if you're not going to captain Haaland, which I don't think many will, due to those really good alternatives, I think there's an argument to gamble on taking him out anyway, because I think even if Haaland does return, if he gets the goal, when he gets 6 to 9 points, even if he gets a couple of returns, I think you've used the transfer ahead of the curve. If this is the blank in 18, I think is really important here in terms of, if you feel if you're moving to Watkins, Solanke, Jimenez, or anyone like that, and you think that they can match Haaland regardless this weekend, then or even fall slightly short of their points, I think it's worth the transfer anyway because of the cap.
Yeah, I mean, if you
no
think
captaincy.
about all the injuries and flags that are out there anyway, by not having to carry Haaland through the blank, you've got that extra bench position. You've got that extra, you've got a lot more money as well. You've just got the flexibility to have a better team in game week 18 rather than carrying him through the blank, albeit with the possibility he's going to have two blanks.
And if you hold Haaland as well, you can't think that he'll go from not being able to play and and the kind of words they've used as well, it's not a knock, it's not even a muscle thing, it's they've been quite specific about stress on the bone and stuff. Is he going to turn up, rock up, be full throttle and play 90 minutes against a Palace team who sat back and frustrated Liverpool for most of last week? So I think with all those things considered, I'm selling regardless, unless Pep comes out tomorrow and says he's great, he's on fire, which I just can't see him doing. He's going to be. We'll see. We'll see how training goes tomorrow. The usual BS.
I think I disagree to a certain degree, because let's say if we hear a leak that Haaland is starting, and even if we believe that he's going to play 60 minutes, right, as a base case scenario, Crystal Palace are decimated with injuries. I expect City to give them a proper hiding. I think it'll be 4 or 5-0. So even if we assume that Haaland gets a single goal in that time, let's say 6 points, I personally don't think it's worth a transfer, selling him and then buying him back again in game week 19 or 20. I mean, if you hold Haaland and he's starting, then I would take him at 60 minutes even, because it saves 2 transfers. I would rather use that transfer elsewhere in game week 18. I mean, game week 18 is going to be a low scoring game week anyway. So I don't really think it's worth selling Haaland if we know that he's starting for sure.
But I don't think we're going to get that, and that's a hard, I kind of hark back to the Friday night deadline. If it was a Saturday and we had a leak, but we're not going to get a leak before 6 p.m. or 6:30 on a Friday, are we? So I think it's
unlikely. I agree, it's unlikely. It could happen, but I mean, it's unlikely. I agree.
I've got one more point. If your team is going really well, if you're up there, then I think it's safer to hold Haaland if we think he's going to, if he's going to play, or if he might play, and think about saving in transfers. If, however, you are, down the ranks, this kind of situation does give you an opportunity to do something different. It does give you the opportunity to shake things up a bit, and make some moves that are different from just having that kind of, 5-man midfielder that I mentioned at the start, plus Watkins, plus Haaland. That is the template, and I think you mentioned Bakar in a previous Green Arrow, that we all go into a motorway lane and we all follow each other with the same 7 forwards. Then no one's going to gain on anyone. If you don't actually go different by taking the opportunity to take a risk at this stage, then you'll just get the same as everybody else.
Which is why I almost hope that Haaland is out, so that we can differentiate and we can sort of make those short-term gains out of the likes of Watkins, Nunes, Solanke, all these kind of guys.
I think the thing I'd add as well, just to kind of finish that problem as well, that if you do think there's a slight chance Haaland plays and you do stick with him, because I think I think with what we've seen, and obviously we don't know. I think it's fairly unlikely he plays. Right? There's lots of benches at the moment, probably I think including mine and yours, Bakar, which are pretty crap as well, right? So then if you do play Haaland, we'll have Archer coming off the bench, whereas you've got a far better chance of getting decent points off your transfer anyway. I think I'm obviously talking myself into it. Kind of.
I mean, when you look at all the indicators, I mean, for example, Alvarez didn't play at all yesterday in the Champions League. I mean, that sort of indicates to me that he'll be needed for the fixture against Crystal Palace. So, I mean, all those indicators that we're hearing are sort of indicating that yes, Haaland will probably not be needed against Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as if Crystal Palace are in great form or they have a full strength 11 anyway, right? So I think Pep would be fine without Haaland. I don't think he'll risk him.
When was the last time City scored 5 goals per car? Out of interest, how many times have they scored 5 goals this season?
It was against Fulham, I think, in game week 4 or 5.
Yeah, I don't think. I do think as well that it's very easy to think of Man City still as this free scoring goal machine, but I don't think they are that this season. I really don't. I think that even in games we've expected them to go and batter teams, they just haven't done it. Like last weekend, and and in other games. Admittedly, Haaland is, his scoring record is still superb, but I still don't think we're seeing, anything like the previous seasons where our expectation was 4, 5, 6, 7 nils. That at time depend on the fixture, wasn't it? But again, just these little indicators which, to me, just think, I think I'm gonna go just on replacements then. Not looking at any team dependency now. Who do you think is the best replacement for the next sort of 2 or 3 game weeks? Rich, I'll come to you first.
I think if you're not looking at team dependency, Solanke looks like the best for over 3 games. I think you're buying Watkins really for, if you don't have him already, for game week 18. Where he's got Sheffield United, but you've got Solanke has the fixture immediately, and we never know how long these players are going to stay fit with so many games. So you get the immediate nice fixture there. He's less money, which gives managers a lot more flexibility off the downgrade. And I think he edges Watkins out, but as Bakar made the point, I've kind of saved a transfer by getting Watkins. So if you want to be efficient with your moves and bank a transfer next week, then maybe Watkins can suffice. But also, again, it is team dependent, because if you most people are sitting on Archer or Mubama and a dud third striker, whereas with some lines have got Isak and Nunez, or they're already stacked up with three nice forwards. So I did call Jimenez out in my team reveal last week. He's now scored again. I'm not surprised to see him on your graphic, because I think he's a really good option. And if he's hit form and he's got confident, he's only 5.3. I think he's gone up 0.1 this week. That's a great price.
Yeah.
And he's only slightly more than Archer, and you can start him from now on. In most games. And I think is he on pens? Is he on pens? No,
Willian is, I think.
Yeah, Willian.
I think Willian is.
Okay. I think
he has
Willian's
taken
injured,
pens in the past, so he could be reserve pen taker or something. Yeah. So look, I mean, Jimenez, great option and a big differential. I think he was less than 1% owned last week.
Good stuff. Bakar, objectively, who do you think will score the most points in the next 3 or 4 game weeks out of these forwards?
I mean, if you're making it sound like a very basic question, I would probably go with Watkins. Okay. I mean, if you don't really want to overthink it, simply because Sheffield United at home in game week 18, captaincy option, then Burnley at home in game week 20. Yeah, I would go with Watkins. I think he's more of a long-term hold as well.
Yep, agree.
Just because how good Villa are. I mean, they're creating 2+ XG at home in every game. So yeah, I mean, I sold Watkins for Darwin 3 or 4 game weeks ago, just because I had nothing better to do with my team, and I had 2 free transfers, and Watkins was this injured out, and I sold him. But I didn't really want him to. I didn't really want to at that point, but I sort of wanted to take the upside opportunity with Darwin. But yeah, I just think Watkins is a very, very nice, ideal left field asset to have over this congested period.
Agree. Alex Micker in the chat said City have scored 6 at home versus Bournemouth, 5 against Fulham, and 3 versus Spurs. So yeah, but they still only scored the second amount of goals in the league, which I say again in previous years they've just been smashing everyone, haven't they? Flagging is our next club. We got a full 15 of players who most of them would reasonably get in the FPL team: Sanchez, Areola, Trippier, Maguire, Taylor, Luca Dean, Branthwaite, Martinelli, Gordon, Bruno, Douglas Luiz, Mbuemo, Awonyi, Edouard, and Haaland are all unavailable. It's absolutely crazy. Obviously, we've talked Erling Haaland to kind of death now, but I suppose in terms of looking elsewhere in the team, goalkeepers, defence, maybe midfield. Rich, what are your kind of early thoughts on where else to kind of look at, focus our transfers, and any thoughts on that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a lot of defenses are struggling this week because a lot of the budget defenders are in trouble that are highly owned. So you can't even call on them as a bench backup. I mean, Maguire was one of the ones in my team that could have done without him getting a groin strain the other night. Even though United aren't going well, he's nailed, and he could be useful later in the season. Plus, we've got some suspensions to key players. Trippier, if you hadn't got, he's maybe appealing next week because he's getting his suspension out of the way. But again, that's a lot of money tied up to have to carry through. And if you haven't got Porro, that is staring in the face as a free transfer to make this week if you want to bring him in. I mean, I've had to focus elsewhere, but he's clearly the best option if on the defensive side. Gordon, most people own now. Who are most engaged manager to move for Gordon now. I mean, he's really the big jeopardy that we want the team news on. I mean, I didn't actually see. I caught the end of the games. We were out yesterday, but when I got home, I didn't actually know that he was a hamstring doubt. I just saw him trudge off after about 60 minutes. I thought he was just being kept for the weekend, but it has emerged that he's got Howe's talked about him having a hamstring issue. So yeah, he's definitely a worry for me. Gordon, most people have moved and Burmo on off that list, haven't they? So they'd be a couple that I'd call out.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Rich, on players and teams and players who you'll be looking at in terms of replacements for Gordon potentially, or or anything else? Got any thoughts?
I mean, I quite well. Obviously, we've talked about the forwards a lot.
Yeah.
I quite like the way Fulham are playing. Although Jimenez would be my go-to choice there. Maybe Andreas Pereira is worth having a look at if you want a cheaper mid from that side. Bournemouth, I mean, so Tavernier is playing pretty well for Bournemouth. I mean, you probably would want to go for another budget option, I would think, because most people are looking at solidifying around that Salah, Son. I mean, Saka's going to be very valuable when everyone goes away to AFCON and Asia Cup. So if you haven't got Saka in, I'd definitely try and stretch to him if you've got the money. But yeah, Tavernier, Bournemouth.
Yep.
Anything else? Am I missing anything? I'm not going to go anywhere near Chelsea. I mean, people were talking about Sterling quite heavily last week. I think Chelsea is such an up and down team at the moment. They've performed well against Spurs, really well against City, but then been quite poor last couple of weeks. They really have. So I just don't know what you're going to get with Chelsea. What do you think on that, Bakar? Chelsea, going anywhere near him?
I mean, Colwell is the only one who remotely appeals, and that's because of his price and because James is now injured and Cucurella is also injured. So Colwell is probably secure for starts. And at his price, he's probably a fine player to have. He's probably the only one who I would be buying out of Chelsea this week. I mean, in defense, personally, I think Porro, you mentioned, I think he's the standout defender if you're buying a defender this week because, his fixtures are nice and he sort of sorts the defense out for the medium to short term, the medium to long term, actually. So that he's a good buy. In the forward line, we've already touched on Solanke and Watkins. I think they're the obvious ones if Haaland is out. In midfield, I think Richarlison is one, which you need to keep an eye on. Let's say if you still have Mbomo, then I like Richarlison because Richarlison, he scored twice the weekend. He is playing up front. And I personally think it's his spot to lose. And especially when Son goes to the Asian Cup and when Salah goes to the African Cup of Nations in 21, there will be plenty of midfield slots in our teams up for the taking. So I suspect he'll be more popular at that point, but I really like him even if you're buying someone this week, because Spurs, their fixtures are really good from now on in. So let's say if you have Mbemo or if you're on a wild card, then I really like the look of Richarlison because he's a high upside punt.
Yeah.
Yep. You got Pau Torres up on the screen, Fergie.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a good one to call out because people might be struggling for a bit of cash and then coming down off one of these 5-ish priced defenders. He's about, is he 4'6" or 4'7"? I'm not sure
Yeah, he's 4'7", Konza's 4'5", and both of them are nailed. So both of them are really good shouts.
Yeah.
And you've got Leno as well, Rich, on the keeper. What's your think with Sanchez? You're going to play through Sanchez and hope Turner comes in and.
I've got Turner getting his place back was a bit of a kind of, that was a bit of a relief.
That was a gift. That was.
He's now I mean, I've done a few wildcard reviews this week, and it's probably worth going Dubravka and Turner and just going literally bargain basement on the keeper combinations now, because apart from Leno, who rightly is probably that top performing keeper, there's no standout option. And I just wouldn't spend the extra. What's Leno now? 4'8", 4'7", something like. I wouldn't spend that. I would just spend the 3.9 and the 4. On most people got Dubravka in a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, they look the way to go.
I'm sure this is unpopular opinion, but let's say if I was in a wild card this week, I would pair Edison with Dubravka simply because of City's fixtures and their double, which is likely to happen in either 21, 23, or 24, and he's going to be the most secure option from the City defense. I know he was a complete disaster to own last season. I mean, I owned him for large periods, but I like the look of him on wildcard. I do see a consistent stream of clean sheets.
You think he's worth the money? I think he's worth the extra
because of the fixtures that City have coming up and the double. Simply because of that.
I think the Tavernier shout I really like, especially if you're not going for Solanke as well, because if Bournemouth do get a couple of goals, then he's a very creative player. He's incredibly cheap. He's an easy shift on from anyone, and I really like him as a pick. He does have issues with fitness, but when he's fit and firing, he's a very, very influential and good player. So I do like the Tavernier shout. Yeah. Looking at predicted points for the next 4 game weeks. Just so we can kind of rationalise all this, Son is top. Rich, you'll be pleased to see now he's in your team. 27.4 of the next 4 game weeks. Salah second, 26.7. Saka, 22.8. Bowen, interesting. We haven't mentioned Bowen at all. He's in my thoughts, I think, over the coming week or two. Well, weeks maybe. But I've got some money in the bank. We're all going to have money in the bank in a few weeks. I think Bowen could be right back. I think he's gone under the radar because he had that injury. Scored against
playing tonight. Is he in the team tonight or not?
I don't think we've had the teams yet because they're a bit later.
8 o'clock game.
Yeah, I did see that Liverpool and Villa have put out 2 incredibly weak teams. So yeah.
That's good. Now, Bowen, I mean, he's been good, but last week West Ham just caved, didn't they? Do you think that's a one-off or is a worry? I mean, they lost 5-0 to Fulham.
I think it's a one-off because they beat Spurs like 3 days earlier. Yeah. I think it's a one-off. I think he's looking sharp, and it looks like now he's got that forward role, which we all thought that he may have a bit earlier in the season. I think it looks like now he's playing a bit further up. Thoughts on Bowen Bakar?
Yeah, I really like him. I think he was very unlucky the weekend. He actually had a big chance and he created a big chance, but none of them were converted. So he's kind of gone under the radar, but his underlying data was very strong. I still think he is a good option. I mean, if you have him, then you can hold him. I won't necessarily go out of my way to buy him, but he's a hold, in my opinion.
Yeah, he had 3 shots on target as well, which was good. Haaland in there still, despite the blank and despite the fact he's flagged as well. So, if he wasn't flagged, he'd be obviously right back up there. Watkins, 21. Gordon, 20. He wasn't flagged at the time. I took this data, I might add, so he's probably gone down now. Palmer still up there, 20. Odegaard is a player as well, which looks to be coming back in form. How he didn't score, he had 2 gilt-edged chances against Villa. That Martinez save was was pretty incredible in all fairness, and then he put another one wide from sort of the same, when he kind of drifts into this space, kind of 9 or 10 yards out. I think Odegaard could be popular in the coming weeks. You mentioned Bakar about having, us all having some spots in our team's midfield in the coming weeks. I think he'd be popular. Jesus, Isaac, Trent, and then going a bit further down, Nicholas Jackson. Not obviously not so much looking at him per se. Even they are home to Sheffield United this weekend. Could be a 1 week punt, but
Nkunku's back in the squad.
Back in the squad.
He's close, isn't he? It'd be good to see him kick a ball, wouldn't it? And see how he gets on. But he's definitely someone you've got to give a few weeks to see how he adapts. He'd possibly be even more raw than Jackson, wouldn't he? So he's definitely a wait and see. But I think Jackson. I wouldn't buy Jackson now just because I think he could lose his place to Nkunku.
Jackson this week for a 1 week punt, maybe.
No, thanks, mate.
And Cunha, who we haven't mentioned either, has been on absolute fire. 5.7 million as well as Adingra, Kulusevski, and Doucouré kind of make up that. So some names in there we haven't talked about, and it's good to look at these predicted points because it's very we're all humans. We've all got these kind of biases of things we look at. But there are that Bowen and Odegaard ones have kind of caused me to pause a little bit because I hadn't really considered them in my plans of the coming weeks. But when Bowen's on form, we all know a month back he was essential, and he was the number one player to have in the game sort of thing almost, and he's got under the radar since. So I like that one. Anything to add in there, chaps? Anything missed over the next few weeks? Or
no, I think we've covered it extensively.
I think so. Yeah. Agree. Captain for this game week. Hub predicted points for this week. Salah 6.9, home to Man United. Son 6.5, Bowen 6.1, Saka 5.8. And in the poll, who's the best captain? Salah gets 50% of the votes. Son got 30%, and then Haaland still gets
quite close.
7%. But Rich, come to you first. Captain this week?
No brainer. Salah. I'd have done it even if Haaland was fit. I just think United is so depleted and demoralised that. Sorry about that. I think that might be my phone. I'd have done it over Haaland. But now we've got the United in a worse position than Liverpool at home. I think it's an outstanding fixture. So I'm surprised it's not nearer 80% at pull.
Yeah, we've had some shouts in the chat around triple captain Salah this week. That's how confident some people are. Bakar, would you put your triple captain on Salah?
Nah, no chance. I mean, I like saving the triple captain and all these ships for the double game weeks. But I mean, I would have captained Haaland if if this injury hadn't happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if he's fit now at 60, 70 expected minutes, I think I'll just go with Salah, who's likely to play 90 minutes at home to Man United, who are decimated with injuries. And the bookmakers are projecting Liverpool to score around 3 goals. And Salah's fully rested. I mean, the signs are
so is Darwin, by the way. Darwin's not playing this evening. He's benched this evening, which is
I was actually really
Darwin.
I was actually really hoping that happens because Fergie. I mean, our teams are similar with Gordon, with Haaland. I mean, the last thing you need is a Darwin headache as well on top of this. So if Darwin started tonight, I wouldn't have been too optimistic about his chances against Man United, but it looks now that he'll probably start. So should be good to go.
This is where Darwin owners win out over the 3 or 4 weeks over Watkins. I think Watkins have got about 16 points and Darwin have got about 8. But this is the one where Darwin gets 2 goals and an assist this week, and Watkins blanks away to Brentford. So we will see. Good stuff. Captain Salah though, Bakar, this weekend.
Yeah, of course.
And and the same for me as well. I think Shaw went off at half time as well, didn't he, on the weekend? So goodness knows what kind of a team they're going to have. If Shaw's out, it's going to be Reguilon or Dalot, I suppose.
Wan-Bissaka,
Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, I would imagine.
And then Lindelof and Varane.
Yeah, Lindelof and Varane.
That's about right, isn't it? Or McTominay can play as either utility striker or utility
Bruno as well.
Centre back.
No Bruno as well.
No Bruno.
Bruno.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, I mean, I assume, we're going to get onto lineups in a minute, but I'm presuming you're going to play Tsimikas in this game because, there's a great opportunity for assists here, I would imagine.
United do have
he's
Anthony,
not
though.
playing he's not playing tonight either, is he? Tsimikas
No, he's
is
not.
rested.
He's on the bench as well this evening.
Liverpool's odds are decent, actually. Liverpool have a 38% chance of keeping a clean sheet. That's more than Newcastle this week, which is kind of surprising. So Newcastle aren't exactly hotly tipped to keep a clean sheet this week, but Liverpool have a decent chance.
Fergie is a punt. Game week 17 to 20. Mentioned him already. This player's got 3 or 4, actually, depending on how you look at it. Really, really good fixtures over this 4-week stretch. Four, I would say. And when he's fit, say he consistently returns really well. He's under 1% owned. 5.4 million. Ideal Gordon replacement if you are thinking of getting rid of Gordon. Even though if Gordon he is fit and he does play, I do think Gordon's going to have an outstanding few weeks with Newcastle's fixtures as well. But yeah, Marcus Tavernier, or I was corrected. I've been calling him Tavernier, but apparently it's Tavernier. Is my punt for the next 4 games. Home to Luton, away to Forest, home to Fulham, away to Spurs. I think is actually a good fixture for anyone. As much as Spurs are good, I think Spurs are kind of like bright at the moment. They're always going to score, but they're always going to concede as well, aren't they? So I think if you're not going for Solanke, I think he could be a really, really good option. And I really fancy him actually to get, 3 returns in the next 4. Which
I mean, they really have. This is probably their best bit of form that they've shown since they've been in the Premier League. Bournemouth. It's just one thing. It's still Bournemouth, right? And can they sustain that? Right? Everyone's talking about Solanke like he's, Lewandowski. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just a bit convenient, isn't it? Because they've got 3 nice fixtures.
I do agree, but it's also incredibly rare that you can say with all respect that a bottom team, the stats they've put up over this last 5 game weeks, you don't see a team down the bottom outpowering teams like Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal for attacking prowess over a reasonably sustained period of time. Over 5 game weeks. So I appreciate it. It is an anomaly. But I think it's also an opportunity to kind of jump on it, make the most of it, and jump off while the fixtures look good. So, and they've beaten good teams. Newcastle away, was it? Were they away or home?
Well, they walloped United 4-0, didn't they? I mean, I know United aren't a good team, but they beat them at Old Trafford.
And Chelsea as well, wasn't it? They've beaten Chelsea, Newcastle, and Man United. Good stuff. Senesi looks.
He's just got. I was looking at him, but he's off to AFCON, so he gives you an AFCON headache as well. It's another transfer out, and we do need those transfers. So, but he's exciting, Senesi.
Rich, we've got your team on screen. You've got currently 4 flags. 5 flags across your squad, as it stands. What's your? Sorry,
have I?
Not including your transfers. I would.
Okay,
this
is pre-transfer.
This is pre-transfer.
So pre-transfer. Well, I've already made my transfers this week. So Watkins has come in for Haaland, and Son has come in from Burmo. So basically, I am going to play a 3-4-3. I'm going to bench Anthony Gordon, who conveniently is a doubt. So
it's a brave bench, though, mate. I know. Well, I appreciate it's fairly obvious given your front 8, but
But I mean, I've got to make that decision if you go with the front 8. I mean, it's quite funny as I got Palmer, weeks and weeks ago. Every time I play him, he blanks. Every time I bench him, because I bought him for that bench position initially, he's scored against all the tough teams. And he's not returned against the so-called easier teams. So, but we're now into a period of fixtures where I think we need to be playing Palmer because of Chelsea's fixtures. And so Gordon's going on the bench, and it's a bit more of a headache with the defenders as to whether I play the 2 Arsenal guys at home to Brighton plus share, or I put Tsimikas in there and bench one of the Arsenal guys. So I was thinking I might bench Gabriel actually, as he played in midweek, and Zinchenko didn't. And would you do that?
I think in your position, I think the front eight, you have it right. I think I would probably bench Gordon as well, although it's risky and he hasn't blanked in a home game this season. But just the injury doubt probably mean that I'd probably bench him, especially because Wilson started at the in the game against Milan, so that probably means that Isak will start this week.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely play Isak. Could be on penalties as well. I think I would play double Arsenal defense and Tsimikas. I mean, just because all those three guys have better clean sheet odds than Newcastle this week.
So you bench
And
share again? Yeah,
I would bench share. Yeah, I would bench share, but simply because I expect Fulham to score, and simply because I think Arsenal have been very unlucky in recent weeks not to have kept a clean sheet. And Tsimikas has that attacking potential, which is very hard to ignore.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's a harder one in the defense. But yeah, I don't know if there's any news on Sanchez, but I'm gonna play him over Turner, and we'll see. But maybe if we get confirmation that Turner starts tomorrow. I mean, against Spurs, what's Forest's chance of a clean sheet against Spurs? About 8% or something.
Not high.
Terribly low. No.
Cool.
He'll get some save points though, won't he? Hopefully. So
appreciate you've already made your transfers, Rich. You do have you had to, and the AI suggested you did Mbuemo to Son, and also suggested you did Gabriel to Porro. So Haaland, the problem with Haaland is because he's only 50% flagged, he's still got reasonably high predicted points still. So that's why it says I haven't got rid of Haaland. So yeah, interesting one there.
I would definitely be moving an Arsenal defender onto Porro if I had that luxury this week. I don't think it's worth a hit though. Not with the fixture. I think Brighton will score. I mean, they've scored in every other game this season, haven't they, Brighton?
Is it not worth it then, do you think?
Once. What?
Is it not
worth
a
hit for Porro? Well, then I would even have more of a bench headache, wouldn't I? Even more then, wouldn't I?
Yeah, I won't take a hit for Porro.
No.
In your position.
Wow, I don't know. I wouldn't bench Shah either, because I think Shah out of all the defenders there have got by far the most attacking upside as well. I do think that the Fulham will score, but Brighton will definitely score. They always score. I don't know.
Yeah, I do, and I think what's just taught me is I just don't like double defensive double ups. I really don't like it, and I want to get off that. I like to spread the options around every time you do a double up. I mean, you keep on, it's great when it hits, right, and you get a double clean, but actually most of the time you don't get a double clean, do you? You get a double wipeout. 80% of the time you don't get a clean sheet. So I really don't like double ups. So that Zinchenko buy was not good.
Interesting taking the chat off FPL Freddy. If Gordon is out and Isaac plays, it could be that because what they did towards the end of last season quite a lot is they played Wilson up top and Isaac on the left, so you could have a nice left midfielder up there, Rich, in that striker position.
I don't mind as long as he plays. I mean,
he'll definitely play, won't he? Yeah.
He's now become the player I need to lose. But when it's the Haaland, I'll just lose Darwin and Isak for Haaland and a dud, and I can just about do that with the money. So it's only for a couple of weeks. I just hope I've been patient with Isak and Darwin, incredibly patient. But they could still both bang over Christmas, couldn't they? They absolutely could. So I'm just hopeful of that one bonanza.
Indeed, same. I think we're all praying for Darwin on the weekend, aren't we?
Yeah.
Bakar, we've got your team on screen now. What's your thinking for the weekend?
I don't think my bench is strong enough to cope with Haaland absence in game week 17 and 18. So let's say if we don't hear any positive news on Haaland tomorrow. I mean, if there's positive news, then I will obviously hold and I will roll the transfer. If we don't hear any positive news, that's where it gets interesting. I mean, if we don't hear anything, and let's say if Pep says that we're going to assess it day by day, we're going to take a chance in Saudi, he might be fit for Saudi, then I will probably buy Watkins in, because I think that's a safer move, because I was planning to do Darwin to Watkins next week anyway. But let's say if I feel that Haaland is out for a while and he won't be fit before, let's say, game week 20, then I think I will chance it with Solanke, and then I will get Watkins in for either Darwin or Archer next week.
Yeah, I think that's quite sensible. And your bench order, would you have Archer first bench over Cash, or?
Yeah, I mean, I have Archer first bench, then Cash, and my final one is Taylor, who's suspended. But let's say if Gordon is out for, let's say, a week, and if he's missing 1 or 2 game weeks, if he's at risk, then I think I might even hit Archer and Haaland out for Solanke and Watkins. That could also happen.
Okay, cool. So just looking at the Game Week 19 stuff, which may decide. Yeah, interesting. Like with me, we oh, sorry, Bakar, you're recommended to transfer again. Obviously, this takes into account Haaland is still only flagged was Darwin to Watkins. AI, still really likes Watkins over the next few weeks.
Exactly.
Really strong fixtures in 18 and 20, home to Sheffield United, home to Bournemouth. So Watkins is a definite in, isn't he, over the coming weeks. With Haaland, with me, I just looked down at the Game Week 19 fixtures because I don't think away to Everton is a great fixture. And I was just having a scan through actually, and I was looking at the alternatives captaincies, and I was struggling a bit until I saw that Liverpool are away to Burnley. So I do think I'd pick Salah over Haaland anyway, potentially that week, all being equal as it is now. So I think with that in mind, your point earlier, quite rightly, around going Solanke could be quite dangerous if you wanted Haaland back in 19, because you'd be kind of outpriced or have to take a hit. But
exactly.
I think I like Solanke for this week over Watkins, rightly or wrongly, right? Rich's point's absolutely right. Bournemouth, it's Bournemouth at the end of it, but I do think he's a fantastic striker. He is in great form. His team's in really good form, and the fixtures are brilliant. So I do really like him for this week. So I think I'm going to go Haaland to Solanke again, unless Pep says he's training, he's fit, which I just can't see.
My counter to you is while I agree with the fact that Bournemouth are a great team, they're a team in form and they're likely to do well against Luton. Luton are conceding the highest XG in the league, especially away from home, and I expect Solanke to outscore Watkins this week. But would you rather have Haaland away to Everton in Game Week 19 or Solanke at home to Fulham in Game Week 19? I would still back Haaland, irrespective of the fact that he's playing Everton, which is why I think if Haaland is back in 19, I would rather go down the Watkins route, because then I can easily sell Darwin for Haaland in 19, especially at a time when I do feel that Darwin will be benched anyway.
So my plan is to go to Haaland to Solanke this week, Darwin to Watkins, Liverpool home to Arsenal the week after in 18. Watkins probably captain then, and then in 19, see how I feel at that point, because a lot of things will change. We'll know a lot more. Either get Haaland back for a hit, which I'm not kind of massively averse to, because I like to think, I don't like the every game week kind of mentality in FPL, in like you've got to each game you've got to smash each game week. I'm trying to look at over a period of like 3 to 4 weeks, kind of optimizing the points as a bit of a chunk over that period, and also we don't know if I do hang on to Haaland or go to Watkins, because something that might happen in 2 weeks' time. If Haaland is then confirmed out for like weeks and weeks and weeks, I've gone away I don't really want to go, and I feel in myself I would be more angry with myself for not just going with what I think I'd want to go and try and almost be too clever, second guess what's going to happen 2-3 game weeks down the line. So I think that's why I want to go Solanke in, Watkins in, and then I've got flexibility then. I don't mind taking a hit to get Haaland back, in 19, but then I've also got the option then to actually just carry on with Watkins and Solanke having superb fixtures for the next 2 after that. Loads of money in the bank, and then be able to react accordingly. So that's my current thinking.
Interesting. That's good points. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going Solanke, Fergie. He's exciting pick for the Christmas fixtures. But I just felt that it was it was a way to use the transfers efficiently, and that just swung it for me. I think I'll probably keep Watkins for the rest of the season now, based on Villa's
I think so.
ridiculous form.
Watkins and
He's like
Porro.
Harry.
I think Solanke
he's like
could
Harry
smash it.
Kane.
I genuinely think Solanke.
Yeah.
I do think Solanke could smash it this
Yeah.
week, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I'm genuinely, I mean, as it stands, I'm genuinely actually terrified of not owning him, which sounds funny because he hasn't really been an explosive player in the past. But yeah, I see Bournemouth winning 3-4-0 against Luton, and not owning him will not be nice. But having said that, I mean, I'll have Darwin, and I expect Liverpool to win by 3 or 4 to 0 against United as well. So hopefully Darwin can come close to matching or outscoring Solanke in that position.
This feels like a high scoring game week, doesn't it? This one, this feels like it doesn't always go that way, but you're right. Next week feels like a low scorer, and this week feels like a sort of 80-90 pointer is out there. So,
and Solanke's ownership is 10% as well, which is nice. I think I like that. And I just think in terms of Watkins, don't get me wrong, he's absolutely brilliant. But we all know Villa are nowhere near as good away as they are at home. And I also think that the fact they haven't got Douglas Luiz this week could affect Villa as a whole, as a team, as a unit. I think he's such an important player for them. I know there's a narrative that Watkins could steal his pens, but I think that Luiz is such an important player for them. I don't expect I can't see, rightly or wrongly, I can't see Villa going away to Brentford and winning 3-0, for example. I think it'll be. I think McGinn.
I think McGinn will be on pens. I think McGinn will be on pens, and I mean Brentford at home are tough. I expect Villa to score, and Watkins will probably get a return, but I don't think the ceiling is as high. Probably one return at best is what I'd expect.
Good stuff. So I've got a bit of a benching headache. Porro, Gabriel, Lascelles, and Simicast, but I do have Gordon as well, so I could even play the 4 at the back. I probably won't. I think again, unless we.
If Gordon is out, you're taking the hit with Archer. I know you're going to take the hit with Archer.
I honestly have no idea what I'm going to do. But if Gordon is confirmed out, I'll probably obviously I won't play him. If it's a bit woolly, I'm going to play him because I think he's an incredibly fit player. And again, that like how I play FPL is how I'll feel after I've made a decision. What will make me feel better or worse? And if I don't play Gordon at home to Fulham and he just starts and he gets a goal and an assist and like a 13-pointer, I will feel sick as a pig. So I think
you got to bench the flag guy. If you've got a bench, you get an 8. You haven't got an 8, have you? Because Archer's not really in the in the thinking.
And that's why I'm quite fortunate with that. I would rather.
I'd be tempted to go 4-4-2 and bench Gordon.
I think I'm going to play Gordon, but have one of them on the bench like Lascelles or Gabriel.
I just think the upside with Gordon is much higher than that of Lascelles. I would definitely play Gordon over Lascelles.
Yeah.
I would risk the start. It's fine.
That's
especially in a week where I don't expect Newcastle to keep a clean sheet anyway.
And if he's injured anyway, he doesn't play, that's absolutely fine because I get the bench.
He probably is more likely to be one of those. Yeah, he's going to give him a rest.
I think
he's played every game. He's played about 10 in a row, and that's the thing. He's knackered as well, Fergie. So I think he is more likely to be, maybe out completely, and Howe will just, as you say, but Bakar will just lie and say he's got a hamstring injury, and then he'll come back the next week and be fine. So it's like, tough, isn't it? Anthony Gordon, one of those jeopardy moments again.
Johnny A is questioning my use of the term. Apparently, I said sick as a dog. I probably meant
sick as a pig.
Yeah,
sick as a pig.
Is that what I said? Oh, there we go. Johnny's saying sick as a dog. Sick as a dog. I don't know whether that's what he says, but
they're both okay. I think sick as a dog is what the general saying is, isn't it?
I think it was pig. Might be regional. What you get sick of, Bakar? Where you are sick as a what? I'd be sick as a parrot. Another one, isn't it?
Sick as a parrot, isn't it?
Yeah. Sick as a pig is whatever.
Sick as a pig is what you say. Okay. And my recommended transfer this week, Darwin to Watkins. But obviously, now we know Darwin's not starting this evening. Now we know there's no update on Haaland's progress at all. Haaland to Solanke for me. Watkins next week, I think, is my current plan. Some interesting stuff there, guys, and we're all good to see. We're all kind of. It's a really good conversation. These are times in FPL where I think it's incredibly interesting because we've all got really, I think, really valid and good points on every way to go. And this is what makes FPL really, really good, when there's not such an obvious path. Next week, if you haven't got Watkins, you're going Watkins, aren't you? That's just a complete no-brainer. But
yeah, and it's really pivotal, but could be a huge swing if it goes one way or another. I need one of these things to go my way one day. It's like, if it's a Haaland hat trick, I think I'll just.
I'm not playing the violin again for you, Rich. After
it's just unbelievable. Just one good week.
Just a reminder, we have a Christmas offer on at present. If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can do so now for a full 30 days, absolutely free. This includes our My Team features, including recommended transfers, predicted points through AI, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members. We've got thousands of people in these groups. You want to join, they're really, really good fun, and so much more. Don't forget, it's all on the app too. If you haven't got it, download the Fantasy Football Hub app. It's an absolute no-brainer if you want to do well and enjoy FPL free for 30 days, which will include all the Christmas chaos. As I say, imagine waking up on Boxing Day morning, you haven't got a clue what to do. You go on your phone, your app, and it tells you your most optimal move that week through artificial intelligence. It's absolutely superb. And that is it for us for this week. Thank you so much for everyone who joined in the chat. Those who are going to watch it back, and for those listening on the podcast versions, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. We had a packed lobby, which was absolutely superb. Thank you all so much for spending your evening with us. Thank you, Rich, as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on X or Twitter.
Superb. Oh, and Magic69 in the chat has just put injured as a Reece James. I like that one as well, as opposed to saying that.
I like that.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah. Bakar, thank you so much again for joining us. Where can people get hold of you?
At Big Man Bakar on Twitter and Instagram.
If you don't follow Bakar, what are you doing? Make sure you drop him a follow on all his social media. Absolutely incredible content, both on his Twitter account, Instagram, and also on the Hub each week as well. My handle on Twitter is at @FFH_Fergie. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We'll be back next week for a double header. We think, Rich, we're going to do Thursday lunchtime. We think right? UK time. I think so. Yeah. Again, it's just such a busy time of year. The games are coming thick and fast, so we think we're going to do Thursday lunchtime. So if you do generally listen on a podcast version, you may want to watch the YouTube one that particular week, only because obviously the deadline is the Thursday evening next week. It's a real. I can't remember the match. Got Brighton in my head. It might be Brighton.
Crystal Palace and Brighton.
Crystal Palace and Brighton is on the Thursday evening. So
the M23 derby.
Exactly that. So we'll be back next week for a double header, previewing blank Game Week 18 and also Boxing Day's Game Week 19. So we're going to have an absolutely packed show. In the meantime, we wish you the very, very best of luck for Game Week 17, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.